Welcome to Undrafted Hockey Fan. Today we're here with Gavin Spittle, 105.3 The Fan, and we're here to talk about some Dallas Stars hockey. How you doing, Gavin?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Now, I want to focus on the biggest part of what Gavin is known for. He's the founder and president of awesomesportslogo.com. And make sure you go to those links and then get some awesome t-shirts. This is the main, his hustle and grind and everything. You want to make sure we support the local brands and everything. You know, this is a big focus for him. So I want to make sure we get that out there. You know, the radio, that's a side gig. It's t-shirts.
Radio first, then probably Spits and Suds, our podcast, which I'm so grateful for that people listen to. And so just a lot of things going on, but plenty of time to talk about my love of hockey.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, well, mind you, this is the nice thing is you do have a voice for radio, and that's because you're vice president of news, talk, and sports over CPS. I mean, I got to get the credentials, man. You're a big deal. I don't know if you know
my tires, baby. I love it.
I do. I love it. Like I said, I think it's great to see this. I mean, this is a VP, man. I don't know. He's a big deal, you know. So again, I think it's so much fun. Like I said, it's cool that you have. It's cool that you're also jumping into the podcast space because, again, sometimes podcasting feels like a younger game, and again, you're bringing in people and you have people like Sean, and it's a fun thing, and again, we're just having great organic conversations about the Dallas Stars and hockey and your love of the game, and which is huge. And again, I saw your picture with Sean and everything, the prospect game. I love that. So that
yeah. I mean, it's been a really cool thing. Just a quick story. One of the reasons, or the reason that we started Spits and Suds was listeners were calling the radio station and saying, you don't talk enough Stars hockey. Mm-hmm. And so this was an outlet. And I admittedly said, I'm going to start this podcast. I'm going to do it myself. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll generate some listeners, but probably not a lot. And then we can cancel it and I can prove to you. And 4 years later or so, they're proving it to me.
That's awesome.
I think it's awesome. And then, you know, I've always felt as though various voices, and that's why I'm excited to be on with you, Brad, is like the goal of this is to grow hockey.
Yep, absolutely.
So a lot of times I'll talk in basics when I'm doing the podcast, and I'll say what I mean by that is, and that's not to offend the hockey diehards, but I want them to understand. Like, I had a Hispanic male that contacted me via Twitter X, and he said, I can't talk up to my friends about it, and I'm embarrassed to ask questions, but I really am intrigued by the game. And this past year, I have been going back and forth, and I said, ask questions at any time. Mm-hmm. And now I see him on Twitter and he's just blasting away with opinions, and I love it. So it's like, we're growing the game. And that's why it's like, yeah, we talk Stars, but that's why I'll have Hannah Bilka on, and talk a little bit of PWHL, the Allen Americans, the NAHL, which is a nice feeder league to hockey, college hockey. So it's about growing the great game. Sure, we focus on the Stars and NHL. And then secondly, to bring in people like Sean Shapiro, Robert Tiffin, David Castillo, Leo Simakopoulos. It's like, you know, the more the merrier, and they can add insight. And one of the biggest compliments is when someone reviews Spits and Suds and they say, I love the guests. I never take offense to that.
Yeah.
You know, my thing is like, just have them on, feed them the questions, and let them go.
Absolutely. No, and that's it. Like, it's funny you say the being able to talk like at a level that's understandable. That's something that I watched some creators, and they talk this high level, and I agree. I want to talk about basics and understand why this is a big deal. And again, I realize it's funny. I get into the niche as well because I just posted a video about the Red Wings prospects, and these are guys that are like camp invitees, and they're playing in this, you know, podunk town, right? In Halifax, right? Which in the hockey space, Halifax is a huge deal, right?
Yeah.
In Detroit, Michigan, they're like, "Where's Halifax?" You know, and so it's funny you say that, because my brother said, I was listening to your podcast and I had a hard time keeping up with the prospects. I'm like, hey man, like, don't worry, this podcast wasn't for you. It was for like the niche Red Wings guys. If you want to listen, I appreciate it, but you know, it's trying to understand and talk about those kind of things can be, it's like I said, it's I enjoy talking about it because it's fun and it's good content. And also I was telling them, like, in this off season, because it was such a quiet off season, again, for most people or most teams, I was like, a drip of the faucet I'll take it. And,
Ah.
for all these, like a prospect, like I'll talk about anything. I'll just give you something to talk about, So
Well, I mean, the Stars did give us some stuff to talk about this offseason. So
absolutely.
that was good. And that's the second thing is that we decided 2 seasons ago, like I just said, I'm going to continue doing podcasts in the off season. And it's amazing. Like this past off season, we're getting numbers that are just as good as the beginning of the season last year. And to me, that shows like real good, solid growth that people want to hear content.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. Now, keeping it fresh and trying to figure out, like, I'm not going to do a podcast just for the sake of doing a podcast.
Sure.
If something catches my fancy, I'm going to do the podcast. And I think that's really important is, I want to give our listeners the opportunity when they tune in that hopefully they'll hear some new information.
Yeah.
They'll learn a little bit. We can all grow together because a lot of times some of our guests will say stuff and I admittedly will grow, and the cool thing is like when they're talking, I can Google. Makes me look
Which is something as a solo podcaster, I'm doing this alone. It is sometimes it's hard to Google and do this at the same time and also grab a drink of water. It is.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I can talk for a while and I can talk to a doorknob. Like I said, I'm good. But I'm not talking to a doorknob today. We're talking again to Gavin of the 103.4, the fan, as well as Spits and Spuds podcast. So let's talk about Dallas Stars. So we'll do a quick jump on this. I know you just did a whole podcast on the prospect tournament. Who are some of the big standouts for the Dallas Stars? We'll start with them, and then we can talk about the Red Wings after that.
Yeah, I think it's, I think the focus of all the people that I was around was Trey Taylor. And now he's a defenseman out of Clarkston, so he's a little bit older coming out, but that's okay. And, caught on with the Stars during the Calder Cup, and I think it was a great learning curve. I mean, the kid loves to talk, and he loves to talk hockey, and that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
So, they have him listed, I
can look it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, 6'2", 200.
Okay, good size.
Yeah, I don't know if he is 6'2", 200, to be honest. But I think he might need to get a little stronger. I think the skating skill is what stands out. And I was really, really impressed by Trey Taylor. And, I think that he'll probably, progress more and, might be like 2 years away. But we'll see. You never know during the injury. Tristan Bertucci is also interesting, another prospect in the Stars system. And they were paired on defense. So I like on Sunday night how they came back against, let's be honest, a much better Red Wings squad.
Absolutely. Yes.
With higher prospect depth. And that's going to happen when one team makes the playoffs and has to trade a lot of draft picks, and one team is in the rebuilding stage under Steve Yzerman.
Yep.
But I have been really talking up Arnaud Tiefensee, the German goaltender.
He did a great job.
Yeah, and I thought overall he played really well. It's tough in that league because basically, like Taylor said, you have 2 practices and then it's go.
Yep.
And you're expected to play with line mates, and you're expected passes to be crisp. And let's be honest, you have guys out there sometimes trying to make individual plays to impress. You have scouts in the audience. You have Jim Nill was there. Jim Nill's staff is there. You're trying to impress Toby Peterson, the new head coach of the Texas Stars. ECHL coach of Idaho was there. So you're really trying to impress all these people. So those to me were guys that stood out. I thought Justin Ertl played well. But there were people that you were looking forward to, namely Emil Hemming.
Yep.
Who I don't think really showed, every once in a while, but in that game too, like there was one point I looked down just to make sure that he was coming on the ice on a regular basis. And I'm not trying to slight Emil Hemming because the second half of the year in Barrie, he played really well. And we're like, okay, here we go. But I don't think this was his best tournament. Like I said, it's a small sample size. So wasn't necessarily overwhelmed by having. I think the shots there. Let's see what happens with these kids when now they're getting into preseason practices, preseason games. See if they're showing. The interesting thing is from a goalie perspective, this tournament was kind of important, albeit there were some defensive flaws at times. But you have Ben Kraws and TFNC. Kraws is the older goaltender.
Yep.
But one of those goalies is likely to play at Idaho, or if you're a TFNC, maybe you can go back overseas. But you want to give him a lot of playing time. At the same time, Remi Poirier certainly showed out in the Calder Cup playoffs. So that to me was an interesting aspect. Like, okay, who is Texas going to start the season with? Is it going to be Kraws or is it going to be TFNC? So that to me was interesting as well. Martino, Aridin is another similar to Trey Taylor, out of Clarkston. Showed better in the second game, I thought. Really nice shot. So he's a guy to look at. So, it was very interesting. I gotta tell you, not to switch to Detroit, Brad, but man, they were stacked.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
You could see the difference at times, specifically in game one. Just felt as though any kind of turnover by the Stars led to high skill, high danger opportunities for Detroit. Before we went on, we were talking about Shea Booyam. Love the kid's size. I was watching some tape after the prospect tournament. I mean, just a great one-timer.
Absolutely.
So, I can certainly see him elevating into Detroit in the future.
Brother of Z Booyam too, right? Mind you, high draft picks, and so he's got it in the family and everything. And he's going to be, him and Axel Sandin Palika are going to be fighting for that PP1 spot in the AHL for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I think Danielson's going to be on Detroit at some point season 2. So, I mean, they have some really, really good prospects that played in game. And I also want to shout out the Dallas Stars fans. I think they drew nearly 3,000 a game. That's good. This is new for them.
Yeah.
It's usually in Traverse City. It goes back to Michigan next year. I kind of like the home and home.
I agree.
I like that aspect. So,
I know Sean was talking about, it's nice to be in Traverse City and everything. And, I missed the tournament because it was like, 4 teams and everything, it's tough now, right? I'm really surprised that the Red Wings, Chicago, and Columbus aren't in Pittsburgh or in that area. That would make a little more sense. I'm surprised the Dallas Stars and the Red Wings link up, but I imagine Jim Nill and Steve Eisenman's relationship, I'm sure they're talking all the time. So that's one of the reasons that they end up matching up so much together.
Yeah. I think that's it. And it was good. It was good to go back and watch hockey.
Yeah.
At a high level, and for this tournament, like a free agent like Jackson Footer, who doesn't have a team, who was at Red Deer last year. He had a good tournament, and maybe that allows him to catch on in Idaho.
Yes.
Yeah. So, these kids, sometimes they get invited, and sometimes it's through a contact that they get invited, but it's their opportunity to show out. And Footer certainly did that.
Yeah. Which I think it's nice to get some of these guys that you haven't heard of or you're starting to grow out, right? I know the Red Wings brought in a couple of guys that they wanted to draft this past draft and they did not. So they're still draft eligible next year, but they're looking looks on these guys and saying, okay, is this guy worth a second or a third round draft pick to get that early scouting in and really get the eyes on them and everything and get that exclusive rights to look at them and say, okay, hey, this guy is showing up and showing out. And I agree with Detroit being so much more stacked. I mean, you had way more first round picks. And again, you guys traded out 2 first round picks for Mikko Rantanen. So again, you're not going to be having a ton of those guys. And I agree. Think about Emil Hemming, just as another side note. He is only 19 years old, right? So he's still a young player. He hasn't turned 20 until June next year. So, and again, being those later draft picks and trying to break under a spot, you want to see more production out of him. Like you said, he did better in the second half of the season in the OHL, or in the CHL with the Barrie Colts. And so, again, you have to allow the development and everything. And again, it's going to be, he might not honestly hit the team until he's 21, 20, maybe even 22, just because Dallas Stars are just so stacked. They did a great job and everything. And again, they're looking for, and like, I think about like when they re-sign like Colin Blackwell, he's an established NHL player. Are you going to take the risk of a prospect who maybe is going to make mistakes and everything? Can you afford to make those mistakes if you're a seasoned team like Dallas and take that hopefully that upside swing, or go with a guy like Colin Blackwell? Again, Red Wings look at that. They brought in Travis Hamonic. Is Travis Hamonic the home run of the season? No, he signed in August, but he is a competent NHL right-handed, which is hard to find. It's hard to find a good right-handed defenseman. He's something that's solid, and he took over. He's basically in Red Wing. Eisman just did a press conference today talking about why did he sign him. It's like, well, he's a veteran right-handed defenseman, and that's something that we lost with Jeff Petrie going to Florida Panthers. You bring in guys like that. And again, I think there's so much patience. By the way, I was so jealous when you guys got like Stranges and everything. And I think you guys have some underrated players. You have Sharkey as well, who played well. I think there's a lot of good players there that you guys had in the tournament.
Yeah, I think, Stars fans have been a little bit spoiled, and that's in a good way, because you look at Wyatt Johnston, who jumped from juniors and made the team.
My heart. You bring up Wyatt Johnston here. I don't know.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You look at Stankoven, barely played in the AHL. Bork, you're talking about guys that were rookies of the years and MVP in the AHL. Yeah. Bichsel was a short time in the AHL before he came up. Harley was another story that went down and then came back up. Ottinger was pretty quick down there. Robertson was pretty quick down there. So they've done a good job, two-prong, drafting and then the quick development. So if someone takes a few years, I think sometimes they hit this, with Emil Hemming, you're right, just 19. We tend to hit the panic button and say it's not there. And it's like, well, wait a minute. He hasn't played at the AHL level yet. Yeah. And to me personally, like, I do watch a lot of junior hockey. To me, there's a lot of open ice at times that, the rink shrinks the higher you go, I like to say. Yeah. And that's why I like to watch people at the AHL level, because the difference between AHL hockey and Dallas Stars or Red Wings hockey or NHL hockey is consistency. And I've asked players on both levels, and that is the word that they constantly use. So it's not me saying it, it's them saying consistency. Because if you go to an AHL game, there are times that you won't tell the difference between an AHL game and an NHL game. Sure, NHL is going to be a little bit faster, but can you consistently put up quality numbers? Because then you're going to move. And usually the guys that put up big numbers have some kind of deficiency, whether it's defensive or something like that. So it's fascinating. I love the development aspect of it, but when people ask me about different people, sometimes I really like to see them basically after a season in the AHL, because we forget Maverick Bork struggled his first half in the AHL, and then he came on. Yeah. And players like that. And I was talking with Rich Peverly, who is the assistant general manager of the Stars, and one of the things that he was roving at the time is working on Maverick Bork's face-off, his two-way game and stuff. So it definitely takes time to develop some of these kids. We just have this urgency where it's like, oh my goodness. But meanwhile, like you said, a Hamonic can sign in August. The Stars can take on Nathan Bastian, who, by the way, played over 50 games for the New Jersey Devils last year. Yep. And, is just, it's one of those guys. Is he going to play on the fourth line? Sure. But can he kill penalties? Sure can. I think at the Dallas Stars status right now, you're looking for diversification. Like, what can you bring to the table? And the Stars, and specifically Glenn Gulletson, has been preaching this offseason physicality. And then you look at the return of Radek Faksa. You look at Nathan Bastian being brought in, Colin Blackwell with a 2-year contract. Yep. So you look and it's like, okay, they're trying to get more physical, not necessarily fighting, but they have to win the board battles. That's something they really struggled against, specifically against Edmonton.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I like that because getting bigger, you can't teach size. That is
Right.
something that they always talk about. Right. And so it's hard. And that's one of the reasons Eisman drafts guys like Sider, 6'3", Edmondson, 6'5". Like they're just big guys and that's what you really like. Again, you can't teach that. Again, they have a guy, Soderblom, who's 6'7". Like it's just, you can't teach that. And he's got hands like crazy. So,
Yeah. Well, it's
also,
interesting you say that. I'm sorry to interrupt.
go ahead.
This is what's going to be interesting about Oscar Beck. Second year in the pros.
Yep.
Oscar Beck is a big kid. But
Yeah.
you're asking me who's more physical, Sam Steele and Colin Blackwell, who are probably undersized. I would say Sam Steele and Colin Blackwell.
Yep.
So does Glenn Gullitz and Neil Graham, does that combo kind of convince Oscar Beck to maybe throw himself around a little bit more? And, because I mean, he's got competition he might be a healthy scratch along. We need to see more development, if he's going to stay in this lineup.
Well, it's funny you say that. Alex DeBrincat, known short guy in the NHL, went and fought Roman Yossi, and that's something that you're like, that's big guy energy, right? That's like you're act big. You can be big for nothing, right? We see guys in there that are just big for nothing, and you need to be able to use your size and be that aggressive, that high compete, and that's the mentality that I think most teams should go in with. You see like the Florida Panthers, the Boston. These are the cultures of you compete hard, you skate your butt off, and then I mean Matthew Tkachuk had a torn abductor, he had a sports hernia in the playoff. Like these guys play through crazy injuries, and again, with something it's not well reported on, but these guys play hard. It's the reason hockey is one of the toughest games in the sport, right? It's so multifaceted. You got to take hits, you got to carry it's a beautiful game, man. I just love it. So
yeah, it is. I mean, a guy like Cameron Schmidt, who was drafted, in the mid rounds this past year, and a lot of people think the Stars got a steal, and the reason he dropped down was he's 5'8".
Yeah,
well, he can shoot the puck.
Stankoven, same thing.
Stankoven's another one. Stankoven. The one thing I'll say about Stankoven, his legs and his tree trunk is like, I mean, Stankoven uses the max amount of his body to his advantage. He's very pesky. I thought he was a perfect fit in Carolina when that trade was made. But even Schmidt over the weekend was checking people. And I think like if that mindset goes to the Cameron Schmidts, I think that's really good. Let's not discount Mikko Rantanen can be very physical. Like he's not necessarily, he's high skill, but that's a big boy. And that is, that's something that they're going to, use to his advantage. Matt Duchene, height-wise, not there, but he's got tree trunks. So Matt Duchene, and I remember a game last year, Brad, where it was in overtime, and Matt Duchene led to the game-winning goal by Thomas Harley. And what he did was he moved over to the side and rotated his body to block the puck from going out of the zone. And at the same time, that brought puck possession back to the Stars. And they ended up winning on that shift. So it was a check, but rather than going in just with the one shoulder, it was the effectiveness of turning his body and checking cleanly, but at the same time, stopping the puck movement. And I think that's something that Glenn Gullis really wants to like focus on. It's like, hey, we need to be harder to play against. And I think that's really, really interesting because specifically after that Edmonton series, I think a lot of Stars fans were calling for that.
Well, I mean, that's why you bring a guy like your captain, Jamie Benn. He is a tough guy, right? Is he going to put the same points up he used to back in the day? And, known Hart Trophy winner, Jamie Benn. But like I said, he brings that mindset, and that's just, you have to permeate throughout the whole team. And again, if you need to make sure you again, that mindset comes out to you. Because again, that's the thing is they talk about is hockey. There's two different sports being played throughout the season. There's the regular season, which is a persistency game where you're going to put up good numbers. Then you go to the playoffs and it feels like a different game. Playoff hockey is just it's a notch. It's a time and a half on the speed and the intensity and everything. You're not taken out bottom feeder teams. You know, you're not going, you know, go through the bottom 5 teams, and then you're going to like hit the middle, and then you hit Edmonton. You're like, oh, now we have to step it up today or whatever. You know, this is a consistent, you got to be on all the time. And this is something that these guys need to realize, is that it's a mindset of going, we play playoff hockey all year long. That's the point of it. So.
And that's going to be one of the themes in this Stars training camp. Can Jamie Benn turn it around? January last year, all the way through the playoffs, he really struggled. Basically, it was playing fourth line minutes as they got deeper in the playoffs. So maybe this style of play fits Jamie Benn's play bigger, but they need a wing on that side. So Jamie Benn right now is the second best wing on that side behind Jason Robertson. So the Stars certainly are lacking, and that's why they have to take one of their forwards and move him over to wing. Maybe it'll be Sam Steele. Maybe it'll be Matt Duchene. You know, we don't know at this point. That's what training camp is for. But, you know, it's not like they have wings stepping up on that side. So I'm kind of interested. That's one of the big stories is who's going to play, you know, that position.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll actually let's take a quick break, and we'll talk about that afterwards. I want to talk about why Wyatt Johnston on Puckpedia is the third line center. I was like, this guy's almost a point per game player, and I want to talk about why they think he's a third line center. And I just want to we'll elaborate on that right after our break from DraftKings. Your season, your shot. The NFL season is rolling. Every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. From first touchdown scorers to anytime TD props or the thrill of live game in betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. And I'm telling you, Detroit Lions, they had a bad week. They had a bad first week against the Packers. But I have faith. I have the faith that they will go all the way and they will take on the Super Bowl. It'll be a tough year. It takes a little bit of coordinating. Coordinating, get it? But I think I think my money's on the, and I'm not saying to put money on it. I'm saying that if you're gonna put money on it, I'm saying Lions, they're gonna have great odds to make the Super Bowl. I'm just saying. Go. Don't talk about the Packers. Don't talk about the Packers or Micah Parsons. I don't want to talk about it. But if you are looking to put money on it, do Detroit Lions. And for new customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5 and you can get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, score over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code THPN. That's code THPN to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus, over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
And we are back. And just talking about Wyatt Johnston before the break, there is a little bit of saltiness because I don't know if you know how you got that 23rd overall pick, but the Red Wings traded up. They had the 23rd overall pick that year in 2021. They got from the Washington Capitals in a Anthony Mantha trade. Used that pick, 23rd overall pick, a second round pick, and a 5th round pick to move up to 15th overall and got Sebastian Cossa, who is still in the AHL. Again, goalies take time. And he was the second best goalie in that draft. It was with Jesper Wallstedt. But I'm a little salty that you guys knocked it out of the park with Wyatt Johnston again, who had 71 points in 82 games this year, which is just phenomenal. And I think it was a great pickup, and you guys did a great job by signing him. So,
well, he wasn't on the radar because of COVID,
yep.
So there wasn't much tape on him, and I think that's one of the reasons he dropped down. And he doesn't blow the draft experts away with the size or the speed, but the skill set and not doing anything wrong is certainly there. He's very Jonathan Taves-like. I would use that example as far as just good at everything, but. For every Wyatt Johnston, I can also throw back you a Julius Honka, a Radek Faksa picked 12th overall, a Denis Gurianov.
Yep.
Other players went, that the Stars could have picked. So it's the draft. It happens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All teams miss. You could go through every team, and a team is going to miss.
Yeah. Well, again, he's a goalie, so we have a little bit of time. And I think, and our Red Wings traded for Gibson this year, so he's got 2 years left on that. Cam Talbot's on his last year of his contract, and so the goal is that Sebastian Costa plays one last year, maybe gets a couple of games this year in the NHL, and then goes full time as a backup next year. That's the plan, the long-term plan to get this young core going and everything. So,
and by the way, I'm a big John Gibson guy.
Me too. I
really think that, watching him play for Anaheim, I mean, he might have given up 3 goals, but most goalies probably might have given him 4 or 5. Like, I've always found him a really, really solid goalie. He's getting up there in years, but I'm interested to see now, different team, different mindset. How does John Gibson perform? Because John Gibson absolutely, I've seen it against the Stars several times, will steal you a game.
Absolutely. No, and I think John Gibson is if you look at the trade market and where the goalies went, I mean, he was the best acquirable option out there. I mean, there wasn't anyone really available. I mean, you had guys like Nedeljkovic, Lian, Georgiev, but like these guys who have played well, but are kind of maybe not at that starter point anymore. Gibson still has that starter caliber. He's a top 30 goalie, right? I mean, if you think about it, he is a starting caliber goalie, and Red Wings were finished 31st or 32nd in penalty kill last year. So they definitely improved their bottom 6 a bit, and I think John Gibson being there is going to help a ton as well. And I think, I mean, again, we can't find. We're hoping we have Jake Ottinger light player in Sebastian Costa. But I mean, even by the way, DeSmith played really well last year as well. I mean, he had a better save percentage, mind you, against lesser competition than Ottinger, who played. Let's see how many games he played. 58 games. Yeah, but they both played really well, and I thought Casey Smith was a sneaky pickup by you guys last offseason.
Yeah, so. 3-year deal at $1 million per.
Yeah.
Scott Wedgwood, they liked Scott Wedgwood.
Mm-hmm.
And when Ottinger went down, Wedgwood did a nice job.
He did, yes.
Scott Wedgwood wanted 1.5 per year, and when you're the Dallas Stars, $500,000 is a lot of money.
Absolutely,
because of their salary cap restraints. So they moved on. DeSmith wanted to play here, so that's one of the reasons they got him on that 3-year deal. Just a good room guy, and he absolutely came up big. I mean, he was coming off a season where he played good in Vancouver too, minus the injuries. So, Casey DeSmith's been on kind of a roll. And I think I also like stylistically, DeSmith matched up very good with Ottinger. So as far as you kind of have the same styles. So it is a very, very good tandem.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring this up too as well. So my wife, if you're listening on audio, I'm wearing a Dallas Stars jersey. So I went and visited Austin, Texas in 2023, December. So I actually, when the Red Wings were down there, they were versing the Texas Stars. And so I actually got to see in person the game. I saw Maverick Bork, Logan Stankoven, Derek Pouliot, like Oscar Back, Kyrou, Petrovic. I get to see all these guys, as well as Poirier as well. So it's good that I'm on a call with you. And again, we're 33 minutes into this, but it's a cool to see, like, talk about this and be like, oh, these guys, I watch these guys. And you talk about watching a lot of juniors games. Like, you're like, oh yeah, I've been watching this guy since he was 18 in the CHL. And you watch this guy just grow up, and it's amazing. So it's a wild experience to see these kids grow and they grow into men. I mean, I'm watching it with Sider. He's 24 years old already. I watched him get drafted. You're like, oh my God. Larkin is 29 years old. I mean, it's and Jamie Benn. I've been watching him again since the start as well. So Sagan was one of my favorite stars as well, of course. So I'm also a Sharks fan. So when you guys got Pavelski, I was like, oh, at least he goes to a team that I like.
I was actually doing some looking at the Sharks. I'm really kind of excited about the future of that. I'm a big Mike Greer fan. His dad was the chief scout for the New England Patriots, involved directly in personnel. He then went to the Texans. Mike's brother is the GM of the Miami Dolphins. There's just interesting. And I loved Greer as a player, So I'm really hoping. I like their coach, and I like Askarov, and I obviously Macklin Celebrini. So they just have the pieces. They're probably too young, but let's see. It's interesting that and good on them. They brought in a Ryan Reeves. People can analytic me all day long, but when you have a person on your team that if they go out there, they're going to check you if you check, our stars hard.
Yep.
It still exists in the NHL, whether we want to admit it or not. So I think, it'll be interesting. San Jose is an interesting team.
Well, and I think just real quick on them, I'm thinking I was on a space like conversation on Twitter just before I jumped onto this, and I was talking to a Sharks fan, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm really excited to see Misa play this year. 134 points, 65 games. He's like, yeah, I think he starts in the AHL, and I'm like, a guy who had 2 points per game, is gonna play in the AHL. I was like, you get out of here, man. He is a top 6 person. That is, I mean. And him and Sam Dickinson, I think the Sharks are going to be really good. So I'm very excited.
They definitely have a log jam of youngsters, and that's a good thing. Really cool. They just signed the city just signed a new lease with the city owns the arena.
Yep.
And they announced that they're making multi-million-dollar changes over the next 5-6 years.
Yep.
Starting next year. So San Jose, the Sharks are there to stay. And having gone to Sharks games. That city loves them, and they got spoiled for a while with Jumbo Joe Thornton.
Yeah.
Joe Pavelski, and you can go on and on. Brett Burns was a big part of their success. So, you can go on and on. So it's now they're rebuilding. So it'll be fascinating.
Yeah. So, let's jump into this roster a little bit because there's a couple things I want to talk about. Where do you think we talked about Wyatt Johnston. Where do you think he ends up in the lineup? Because looking at this, you have Robertson, Hintz, Rantanen. That makes a ton of sense, right? And we'll talk about Jason Robertson if you have time. Sagan, Duchesne, Ben. I'm like, okay, you got the old guy, second line. Like they would be good. Sagan has come back from the injury. He played well in the playoffs, though. And then again, Wyatt Johnston on the third line. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. He should be in a top 6 role. I mean, and he might end up taking over a spot from Jason Robertson. Again, I know he shoots right, but. It could be if Jason Robertson ends up not staying and they end up flipping him or something like that. I can see Wyatt Johnston taking that top line spot.
Yeah, I would say Stars fans, don't be surprised what rolls out on game 1.
Mm-hmm.
What's stopping Wyatt Johnston from being the number 1 center, and then you say what happens to Rope Hintz? Maybe Hintz moves to wing. So Hintz becomes that second wing, and you go Duchesne, Hintz, Sagan. Jamie Benn then moves down. It's possible. I know Glenn Gullickson's going to try every combination possible.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I think Wyatt Johnston could play the first, second, or third center position. Learning that these lines don't necessarily mean what they used to as far as first, second, and third. At the end of the game, time on ice is what truly matters.
Yep.
And maybe it's a matchup situation where if they put Wyatt Johnston on the third line, you're not going to always see the first pairing defensive wise. So that's what depth pieces do. So, and maybe they want Wyatt Johnston to be next to Jamie Benn because there's been success there. So, I'm not trying to skate your answer.
No.
But the reality is that you could see Wyatt Johnston on any of those lines. And, that's okay. And you could see Rope Hintz as a candidate to move to the wing. Let's focus on him for a second. Rope Hintz is a tremendous player, long-term contract, speed, high skill. But we also have to admit there are games that Rope Hintz is not necessarily the most noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say that. And that's not there are a lot of players in the NHL that are like that. But, if you want to be elite in this league, like let's take an all-time center like Patrice Bergeron,
who
rarely had a game where Patrice Bergeron didn't do something that was like, wow. Take a oldie but goodie and Anze Kopitar out in LA.
Yeah.
Always will have an impact, whether it's defensively or, so yes, on paper, the Hintz, Rantanen, Robertson, that's a very, very sexy line. But I need more point production on a consistent basis. Some days he'll score 4 points, and then you won't see him on the scorecard the next game.
Yeah. I like that thought process, because to me, I want to walk it out a little bit. So let's say you move Wyatt Johnston to that first line center. Now, to me, I see Jamie Benn maybe more as, I know Sagan played a little more on that third line. And again, I think it does come down to time, right? Ideally, you have a good distribution. If you can roll 4 lines, that's a dynamic team. We saw that, we saw the St. Louis Blues play so well in their 2019 role. And I think that they had a ton of depth and everything. So they had I think they had, it was 9 20-goal scorers that season. So if you can get good depth, then that's a huge too. You can get a good run in there. So I wouldn't be surprised, but to me, you're starting to get who do you knock down? Like who plays less? I mean, maybe you slow roll Tyler Sagan, but I think because again the injury, but he did come back and everything, and he had a full off season. So
I would like to see them together, Duchesne and Sagan. And that third line, Maverick Bourque, I think will be on your third line. And this is the year that Maverick Bourque needs to step up. And he's had a year under his belt. He's going to get ample playing time, and now he needs to show. So I think, that's a situation where I think Maverick Bourque will be third line, and you could roll out, say Wyatt Johnston's that center. You could go Johnston, Benn, and Maverick Bourque. You could do that as well. So they definitely have options, and they have depth players. It's just, what are the pieces? I know this, and I was asked recently, Sean Shapiro asked me to list most important stars. And I put Matt Duchene pretty high on the list, just for the simple fact of Mason Marchment, Tyler Sagan, Mikhail Granlund. You can go on and on. They all got better somehow. And what's the common ingredient? Matt Duchene was their center. So I think if you play with Matt Duchene, he's going to feed you the puck, and that's going to be a pretty good line. There were times last year that, that especially specifically at the beginning when they were all healthy, a lot of people were debating if that Marchment, Sagan, Duchene line was actually the first line, because they were the better line. Remember, that's pre-Rantanen. So I'm excited to see the options. And defensively, I think they're going to do the same. You're going to see different pairings in the preseason, and they have a lot to decide. And when you sign a player like Mikko Rantanen to a $12 million contract, you are going to have to lose players in certain areas. That's why they lost Donoff to New Jersey. That's why they traded Mason Marchment to Seattle. You can't keep all your pieces, and the expectation is that those roles are filled by younger, cheaper players.
So I was going to actually highlight that, because we saw that Heiskanen went down for an injury last year. Only played 50 games last year. And we saw Thomas Harley step up so well last year, 50 points, 78 games. I think I'm curious on how these are all going to break down, because I would love to see a Harley Heiskanen line. That'd be just, the offense would be crazy, and put him in the offensive zone. But again, Esa Lindell just plays so well defensively. Now I'm wondering, what are your thoughts about Lian Bichsel? 6'7", 231. I was listening to some of your other podcasts, and you guys were talking about him. And what do you see his role? How do you want to see him executed? He's younger again. He's just turned 21 not too long ago. What do you want to see out of him coming into this year?
I would not be surprised, and it might not happen immediately, if Lian Bichsel turns in a top 4 pairing by the end of the season. Glenn Gulletson spoke extremely high on Lian Bichsel. So could you pair him with an Esa Lindell? You probably could. What's interesting is then your third pairing is righty-righty. But if you did do Harley Heiskanen, but you could also go Heiskanen, Lindell, Harley, Bichsel, and then fill in the rest, Lyubushkin, Lundqvist. So you certainly could do that as well. But they certainly have that fourth defenseman as far as top, 2 pairings that is open right now. So you'll have kind of a interesting battle. Lyubushkin started there last year. I think he wore down as the year went on. Actually, Lyubushkin played really well at the beginning of the year. And at the back end is where he really struggled. I kind of liken it to Brad. Remember Ryan Suter a few years ago when he was on the Stars and when he was paired with Miro Heiskanen on that first line? I mean, it was the talk of every single podcast was Ryan Suter. Yeah. But in his final year, he moved down to the third line pairing. Mm-hmm. Prior to the final series, Western Conference final against Edmonton, where I think that, he kind of tank was on empty maybe.
Yeah.
Ryan Suter was an excellent third pairing defenseman. I thought Ryan Suter had a terrific year. So, Lyubushkin, if you limit his minutes and put him as a third pairing, Lyubushkin-Lundqvist is actually a very good pairing. So to me, that's very, very interesting. And that basically is your top six.
Yeah, well, and I don't know how much stock you put in lefty and righties. I know some people talk about it as like, yeah. I think you and I, maybe people who are not on the NHL ice and everything, I think we see like, oh, you want the left guys on the left when it comes to defense. Right. And so, but I know we saw this, at least for Red Wings fans, we saw Albert Johansson played the left side second pair, and he thrived as a rookie. And and I think we talk about this. You give some of these guys a bigger role, they will step up. And I think that's I think we can see the same thing with Lian Bichsel as well this year. If you give him a big role, he can really step up. And I think that's something that, again, you can move Harley over. You can, I guess, you probably with a rookie like Liam or Bichsel, you probably want to keep him on his favored side just to give him a little bit. Hey, you're going to play harder competition. Let's not try and change your side as well. I would love to see a Harley Bichsel lineup. I think that'd be a phenomenal start. Again, you want to squeeze as much as you can out of this guy. He's huge. He's just, I just can't believe it. Like,
he's a big boy. Yeah, he needs to stay out of the penalty box. But
yes,
he's a big boy.
Yeah.
And then you have Alec Petrovic, which is fascinating to me. Like, I cannot remember a player that for the last 2 years played in the AHL, and when the playoffs start, he immediately not only goes on the roster, but plays and replaces somebody. Mm-hmm. It's a weird, interesting story. So there are so many of us that are rooting for him to become the seventh defenseman.
Yeah. He played 17 games. Oh my God. He played 17 games last year.
He played all of the playoffs.
That's crazy. That's
a great story.
Yeah, absolutely. You love to see that. Well, that's, again, I like seeing those AHL guys that get the opportunity to come up and you could just show their stuff. We saw that with the Red Wings, Dominic Shine. His first game he was 30 years old playing for his first time in an NHL game. And you're like, love to see that, man. They earn it because he was a point per game down there. And again, you just see again, going back to what we were just talking about before, do you rely on a guy who's 32 in Petrovic, right? Who is a seasoned guy, you know what you got with him. And that's what a lot of these GMs do is they go back to NHL guys that just are reliable. You know what you have. There's not going to be high risk or anything. And so that's why he thrived in that position, because you know what you have. You've seen this guy play for so long. He's been in the organization since 2021. So you get to see him flourish in those roles.
Yeah, they did not play a lot of minutes. But the defensive pairing of Petrovic and Bichsel was definitely very tough to play against. Edmonton admitted that, but the minutes are so limited. Yeah. Players can look good when they're playing 9 to 13 minutes. Put them out there for 20 and you might see, some deficiencies. So I think that's one thing that, like, Bichel's going to have to make that next step. He's going to have to play 16 to 18 minutes. I know he has it in him. So it's just continuing that seasoning. The thing about Bichsel, he's played a lot internationally and he's played at a high level in Sweden. So he definitely has experience. I love him in the corners. He just pushes people out of the way. He's not a guy that's just going to drop the gloves. So many players want to drop the gloves with him, but he just doesn't take the bait a lot of times. And I think that's a good thing. So he's a clean checker, but sometimes because of his size, he's gotten trouble in the penalty box. And I think that's, something. But, once again, similar to the forwards, who's going to move to the wing, who's going to play that fourth defensive position. That's going to be interesting. They have depth in players. It's just where you're going to put them.
Well, and so I guess, yeah, because you got to watch again. If he tries to hit someone who's 6 foot, his sticks at their face.
Absolutely.
It's just you got to watch that, and that can be such a huge issue when it comes to that size because I'm sure he'll grow into it, right? I guess he'll learn, right? He'll learn how to take those, and I'm sure. I think he's a young guy. I'm sure the refs are probably making a hey rookie, hey, we're gonna put you in the box a little extra more than maybe Brad Marchand, who we know he signed enough sticks for me and everything, and so there's definitely a little bit of bias. So let's talk about, of course, one of the big guys. Well, I guess there's two big stories. One, the Harley contract. Let's start with that before we go into Jason Robertson. What do you see? I mean, because clearly he's a staple on this team. Still an RFA this year. After this year, $4 million at the end of a 2-year contract. What do you see as a fair, with the cap going up as well? Yeah. A fair contract for Harley. What do you want to see him sign? He's 24 years old.
So I disagree with some people on the Stars press that, we were kind of having a discussion about this with a Spits and Suds listener and some other people. And they were disagreeing with me. They said, Harley, you're going to pay him more than Heiskanen? To me, it's not who's the better player. It's the timing of the contract.
Yes.
Simple as that. Evan Bouchard in Edmonton signed for $10.5 million a year. Mm-hmm. You're telling me Thomas Harley's not going to go 10 or more? Come on. He's got to be a $10 million player.
$10 million. Wow.
Absolutely.
For how long? Yeah. See, now I would say we talk about Bouchard. I think that Edmonton got burned on that contract because they paid him $10.5 million, but they didn't get 8 years. They got 4. So I think that was a high price for not enough term. If you're going to get, going to pay, right? So if you're going to do Harley, get him that 8 years and get him at the. I'll hear $10 million for 8 years for sure. That makes a ton of sense.
That is an excellent point, my friends. Mm-hmm. That give me 8. And by the way, this is the last year that you could do 8. Mm-hmm. So if they want to do it, they need to do it this year because September of 2026, it goes down to 7. So that last year could be very valuable. And maybe that's one of the reasons Harley might want to hold out as well. So has to be an 8-year deal if you want to go 10 to 10.5. Otherwise, I think we're looking at 9 to 9.5 and do a bridge deal of 4 years.
So, well, now that because Miro Heiskanen had some time off and Harley took on that PP1 spot, getting the 50 points this year, do you think his production drops this year, being more of a PP2? No. Okay.
I don't. I think Harley's your PP1.
Oh, okay. So
I do. I mean, I'm sure they'll interchange, but I mean, Harley played great in the Four Nations tournament. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if Canada selects him based on that for their Olympic team. Mm-hmm. This is a very good offensive player. 2 things about Harley. He has a knack of knowing where to be. A couple of overtime goals were actually in the dirty area and tight. Mm-hmm. That's not a place that defensemen usually, go. He knows when to rush in the anticipation of the rebound. Mm-hmm. If he misses out, they're going the other way, and it's an odd man rush. So Harley knows strategically when to go in. I really, really like that. Obviously, his passing is good. He can move the puck. He takes it up ice well. Stars fans don't want to hear this. He still needs to grow. Heiskanen certainly defensively is the better player. And I think everyone will agree that Miro Heiskanen, top 5, top 6 in the league. However, Thomas Harley, I think, is borderline top 10 now in the league. And
wow, top 10.
Yeah. I definitely think it's probably between 10 and 15. So I think that's going to grow. And I think Glenn Gulutzan will use him to his advantage. Glenn Gulutzan loves using his defensemen on the power play. So, we saw that with Bouchard.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be really interesting, as far as the deal goes, both him and Robertson, not to jump to Robertson, but they're very smart. They want to see what the market tells. With the salary cap going up, they want to see what the going market is. And people can say, Gavin, you're crazy, But I'm telling you, if you gave Edmonton If you gave Bouchard 10.5, if I'm Harley's agent, that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah. We saw that with Swayman and Ottinger, right?
Absolutely.
Swayman signs 8.25 for 8 years.
Yes.
Ottinger got the same deal, right?
Yes.
They set the market. So
yeah. So people can say like, oh, but he's not taking 8 for 8.
No,
and nor should he. If he does, that's a great deal by Jim Nill.
Mm.
It was great getting Wyatt Johnston. But once again, Wyatt Johnston avoided that bridge deal.
Mm.
And that is important because Wyatt Johnston went long-term security.
So Wyatt Johnston did sign a 5-year deal that does take him to free agency.
Yes.
Which I think that's kind of where I have a hard time. 8.5, 8.4, I guess, for his production at being almost point per game player, which he will be. He will this year. I have bet on it. He was almost there, 71 points in 82 games last year. I absolutely see him as a point per game player, and I think he will make out great in that. But again, like you were talking about with the Stars, you are a cap strap team. You have to. You're not going to. Wyatt Johnston, when he signed that deal, you were going to give him an 8.4 for 5 years. If you wanted to give him for 8 years, it was going to be a $10+ million contract at the time that he signed it, right? And so you have to consider those things. That how do you balance the cap and be a contender at the same time? Which is when you're looking at Jason Robertson, like what will he command, right? What does he want, and what can he command? I mean, he put up 80 points this last season in the regular season, but in the postseason, you have him putting up 6 points in 11 games. So that's something that where you're not seeing the production of this guy when it truly matters, and that's hard to see. Now he was injured though, and he didn't start the playoffs because he only played 11 games.
Right.
So that is something maybe he had a nagging injury there. But when you see guys like even Harley, 14 points in 18 games, Mikko Rantanen, you bring in 22 points in 18 games. Like these are guys that are producing, and if you want to get paid like a guy who produces, you have to produce when it absolutely matters.
And one of the keys is that people need to know both Harley and Robertson are restricted free agents. Jason Robertson's agent did a very smart thing. Yep. The qualifying offer for Jason Robertson, so which the Stars will make that qualifying offer because otherwise you lose the player. They go to unrestricted free agency, is $9.3 million. So that's a jump already for Jason Robertson. So that was a very, very smart move to put the qualifying offer at that. So that's where the negotiations start at 9.3. So it's going to, you could go lower, sure. But, Jim Nill said today, he's like, very smartly, we've had talks with them. They know where we stand, but understandably, they want to see where the market holds. I think you have so many big players out there, and there's a lot more cap money at stake. And so why not? Why wouldn't these players, because they're both restricted free agents, they're not going anywhere.
Yep.
So Thomas Harley and Jason Robertson can kind of just sit back and let unrestricted free agency happen around July 1st and see all the offers. And that's similar to owning a house and what's around you. Yep. And you're going to see houses go for more around you and more. It's not like you say, well, this house sold for $560,000 and it's less square feet than me. Well, then I'm going to go for $500,000. No, you're going to bump it up to $600,000.
Yep.
Because your neighborhood's hot right now. How many puck-moving young defensemen are there in the NHL? There aren't many.
No, not anymore.
That's your quarterback. That's a premium position. I'm sure the fact that restricted free agents aren't grabbed, still, they are more than they were. But you look at the cap restrictions that the Stars have. If I'm a team, why wouldn't I go in and throw 10 to 10.5 million at Thomas Harley's camp? Maybe 11 million. Why wouldn't I overpay? Because if the Stars want, then the Stars have to match that offer. That puts them in even worse cap position. And worst case scenario, I get myself a premium defenseman.
Well, and think about this. You just traded 2 first-round picks and Logan Stinkman and 2 third-round picks for Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you're paying him $12 million. If you threw 11.7, which is the upper limit of an offer sheet for Thomas Harley, it's 2 first-round picks, a second and a third. Are you going to be able to find a Thomas Harley in the late draft in the 20s? That again in the next two first rounds, I doubt it. And I think Thomas Harley, again, maybe you don't go to 11-7, maybe you go to the 10-10.5,
right?
And you say, hey, really put pressure on the Dallas Stars. We saw this with Edmonton. I thought it was so smart that Bill Armstrong did for the St. Louis Blues, a 2nd-round pick for Broberg and a 3rd-round pick for Holloway. Like a 3rd-round pick for Holloway, who was a former 1st-round draft pick, though that's shrewd. It costs you a 3rd-round pick. That's the fun. I think offer sheets are so fun, and I wish more teams did it,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we saw when Montreal did it to Sebastian Aho. You saw how quickly Carolina said, okay, we'll sign that.
Yeah.
I think Carolina they thought they were going to pay him more. So they took that qualifying offer when Aho's camp agreed to it. So yeah, it is fun. I wish it happened more.
I think GMs are too buddy now. They're like, oh, that's my friend Jim Nill, that's my friend Steve Yzerman, and which is, I get it, but like I mean, at this point with 32 teams, you have to be ruthless. I mean, you have teams that it's going to be hard for teams to make the Stanley Cup playoff finals, let alone win one, right? Yeah. I mean, look at how close the Sharks got at one point. When they had Thornton and Marlowe and Pavelski, they had this stacked team, Brent Burns, and they get so close and they lose to the Penguins, right? And you might not get an opportunity to get back to the Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah. Edmonton is so fortunate to lose twice in the Stanley Cup Finals, like to get that far. As a Red Wings fan, I would kill for a playoff game, and I think they're still going to miss it this year. And so it's just one of those things that you have to realize, like you have to capitalize on your opportunities when you have it, because it might not come around again. Again, the Dallas Stars should make the conference finals this year, but they Colorado took them to 7. They took them to 7. So it is an opportunity that you could be out in the first round if you get against someone like that and something screws up, someone gets injured. You have to capitalize on these things. And again, I think that's what makes the offer sheet so much fun, because like you're a contender right now. Dallas is a absolute contender. They are a for sure, like they're contending for the Stanley Cup playoffs. So
they have some question marks. And we'll see. Yeah, I think that's why Pete Deboer will be scooped up at some point, because people have to understand. We talked about this on the podcast the other day. If you take your team to 3 straight Western Conference Finals, you can look at that as a failure, but it's a massive win for the franchise. Yes. As far as revenue generation with sponsorships and gate, because the playoff gate means a lot, because the TV contract's not like it is with the other leagues. So that extra gate in the playoffs makes a big difference. Pete Deboer got you there. So if I'm a team that is struggling out of the gates and I feel as though I have a playoff team on my hands, of course I'm going to scoop up Pete Deboer, because he has shown, whether it's Florida, New Jersey, Vegas, Dallas, he has an immediate impact. It might wear thin, but he has an immediate impact.
Yeah, he's the Tortorella effect, right? Where he has a shelf life, right? And that's okay. The thing is you look around the league, and a lot of podcasters and writers are talking about this. 31 teams in the league tried to get better. The only team that's not trying to get better is Pittsburgh. And so what you're going to find is there's going to be some guys, some teams that are going to get hit in the face with, hey, maybe we're not as good as we thought we were. And they're going to try and make that change, and then they're going to fire their coach, right? Or they're going to bring in a Pete Deboer or something like that. Like I could see, I mean, there's plenty of, I think Buffalo wants to try and contend. They could let go of Lindy Ruff and bring in a Pete Deboer and try and get that culture back around, right? There's a lot of teams like that who could make those jumps, and really, again, they're willing to pay for a guy like Pete Deboer who can really shake it up. Again, Buffalo would kill to be in the playoffs, let alone the conference finals, So yeah. I think that is absolutely something that they would love to see, or I think he will absolutely get scooped up. But I think before December, he's scooped up, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I look at San Jose again with Ryan Warsofsky, just a really solid head coach. Mm-hmm. And my thing is like, if San Jose doesn't make the playoffs, is that a disappointment? I don't think so. But if San Jose gets 10 more wins, I think that's a big improvement with what they have coming through their system. So we just live in a situation of immediacy, and the immediacy is on the Stars right now, and the expectations are Stanley Cup or bust. And I don't know. I cannot sit here and tell you that they have a Stanley Cup winning franchise because they have too many question marks. If they can solve that left wing issue, if they can solve that defensive pairing issue, if Ottinger has an elite year, which he's capable of, if Mikko Rantanen is Mikko Rantanen, which I absolutely think he will be, yeah, if Tyler Seguin can play 50 games, there's just question marks, and that's okay. I would say all teams have question marks going in. I mean, Florida is not going to have Matthew Tkachuk to start the season. Can they fill that void? So there's every team, even if you won 2 straight Stanley Cups, you have question marks. So, you just can't hit the panic button, because honestly, if you squeak in the playoffs like Edmonton did a couple of years ago, you might find yourself in the Stanley Cup. Just get in.
Yeah. Yeah. A real quick one thing I want to highlight with the Jason, just to kind of go back to Jason Robertson, the UFA class, which I think this up and coming offseason could be Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel. Like these are some big players. Like imagine what your center depth looks like. You bring in a Jack Eichel, let alone a McDavid. Like they have to keep these options open. If you lock down Jason Robertson and say, hey, we're betting on you, we're going to keep you. I think it could be that you're now missing an opportunity for some even a bigger swing, right? We're seeing that with Mitch Marner, right? Mitch Marner was signed for $12 million, goes to Vegas. These are types of swings that Dallas needs to consider making, because you're in a tax-free state. You are an absolute contender. You're in my opinion, minimum a second-round team, right? But this is a conference where, again, you have the Avalanche were really close. You're only four points out of the Avalanche, right? The Wild are getting better. Blues, we're trying to figure out what they're doing. I think Jets take a bit of a step back with losing Oilers, but again, you're fighting in that Western Conference with the Golden Knights. The Kings are only a point behind you guys. So there's and Edmonton, of course. So
no, absolutely. I think this is the deepest Colorado team that I've seen in a number of years. The fact that they were able to not only get Brock Nelson at a trade deadline, but then re-sign him. Whether or not they re-sign Necas is up for grabs. However, one of the attractive aspects was whether, it's a he said, she said, he said, whether or not Rantanen would have re-signed there. But in Necas, you got that extra year. So now you're looking at Lehkonen, McKinnon, Necas. Brock Nelson is now solid. You got Gabriel Landeskog coming back to Chuskin. So you have depth, and you signed Brent Burns on that back line. Now, Brent Burns, of course, he's old, but as a third line player and a guy who can give you power play minutes, that's not bad. So I think Colorado got better, and that's very interesting. I think Winnipeg took a step back. Losing Oilers, I think, will hurt them, but let's see if some of the younger. Last year, no one had Winnipeg.
Yeah. Oh, nobody
had Winnipeg in the top 3.
The Capitals too. Like where'd they come from?
Absolutely. The Capitals made some terrific moves in the offseason.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm going to throw a team out that people are going to be like, you're wrong. And maybe I am. Who says Nashville doesn't get it together?
Oh, they can. They have the pieces to be able to do that.
They have the pieces in place. And I really like their coach. It was just an awful year. Now their pieces are older, and that's going to be a question mark. But if you have Marchessault, if you have Stamkos, you
O'Reilly, Yossi, Saros.
Absolutely. Yeah, you picked up Nicholas Hague. Really like that trade, getting the big defenseman from Vegas. So, you're right. UC Saros in net. There are just some really good. I personally feel as though this is the best division, top to bottom. I know that it fights with Bruins, Wings, Tampa, Toronto, Ottawa. So let's be honest. The NHL to me is at its peak right now.
Golden era, man.
In a good way.
Oh yeah, golden era.
So, yeah.
So actually, I got a hot take for you in this case. Since we were talking about Marty Necas, what do you think a Marty Necas for Jason Robertson swap with extensions going both ways? What do you think? What do you think about something like that? Because Marty Necas is a center. You could move over the wing. He shoots right.
I've always been I've always been a Marty Necas fan. I liked him a lot in Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not against it, but I think Robertson's two-way game's a little bit better. But I'm not against it.
Okay.
You know, I mean, that's I mean, if I'm gonna deal Jason Robertson, I'm gonna try to get a top 4 defenseman. That's just
Okay.
me. That's just me. I mean, if you're gonna give me a younger defenseman, then maybe I will, but I just don't think they're in the business of trading Jason Robertson. I think they need the production at this point. I mean, with those salary cap departures, and you couldn't pull off what you did last year due to LTIR. But let's think about this. Granlund was a 20-goal scorer.
Yep.
You know, you look at Dodonov scored 20 goals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you look at the players that left, you know, and there were 20 goal scorers. So they lost 3 20-goal scorers.
Mm-hmm.
So Mason Marchment was a 20-goal scorer. So who's going to make up that difference of 60 goals? And that's going to be kind of fascinating. And that's where you need a Maverick Bourque to step up.
I was just to say,
yeah. And, you know, defensively, I always like the bigger defenseman. But we'll see. Teams are reluctant to deal defensemen.
Yeah, I understand. So, and again, I think Jason Robertson's in a great spot there. I think he's shown he can perform. He's been a 100-point player before. I think it's hard to trade. I mean, there's a reason we talk about the Mikko Rantanen deal twice, right? You know, about him being traded first off from Avalanche to Carolina, then Carolina to Dallas, which again, that is, I can't imagine. I can't believe that happened. It was still a crazy series of events. But you trade a guy, Jason Robertson, who has performed really well in the regular season as well. Those types of trades just don't happen very often. Right. And so it would be, again, another shocker to see something like him move. And again, you need to get an amazing amount of value back for that. So
yeah. Now, the last time around, they didn't sign him immediately, and he did come back and he had a great season. Mm-hmm. At the same time, you know, I think that both sides are happy right now. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot to be said. There's no tension. And Jason Robertson's saying all the right things. So I think that's really good. And you mentioned Mikko Rantanen. So it was from Denver and the Colorado Avalanche to, before he was traded, I believe, it was to Team Finland and then to Carolina and then to Dallas. So in fact, he played in 4 systems.
That's crazy. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So there's that, and 4 different places to live. Now you have one place you know you're living. You can get a house. You have a whole training camp with the team. You know, you can get used to that coaching staff. I would not be surprised if Mikko Rantanen's a 110-point player. I mean, I really feel as though he's going to have a big year. And, you know, he's just a gamer. He takes losses hard. He's a good room guy. They're going to rely on him a lot. You know, he wanted to play here in Dallas, and that means a lot too. When a player wants to play for your organization, that's good.
Absolutely. Well, and that's part of why he got traded to you guys, because he was willing to sign an 8-year deal with you guys. And so I mean, it was a big price, but again, you stand out those 2 first-round picks. And again, I love Stankoven as well, but Stankoven's not going to be a Mikko Rantanen. Like, no. He's, you know, the first-round picks, if you're going to the conference finals every time, 28th overall is not going to be a Mikko Rantanen, right? So these are the types of things that you guys give up, sacrifice the future, but you guys are getting a guy who is an absolute gamer, one of the best playoff performers of this century. And so that's the type of guys that these are worth it for, to make these big moves and big swings. And again, Vegas and Marner, right? Like, these are like the teams that are making the big swings. Matthew Tkachuk trade, right, with Florida. I mean, that was a big trade at the time. You're saying now Huberdeau, who sets the record for left wingers in assists in a season. You sent out a good top 4 in Uyghur, first round pick. Like, it was a big deal. And these are the teams that are now reaping what they sow. Again, Vegas having that cup in the last couple of years, right? Well, 4 years ago. Then you have, again, Dallas Stars have been hot contenders. Again, Florida winning the Stanley Cups. So You just need to make these big swings to really make an impact nowadays. And there's quite a few stars, but again, I think Mikko Rantanen is a superstar in this league.
He's elite.
Yeah.
He's definitely elite. He's proven that he's elite. He's proven that he can play without Nathan McKinnon, because that was one of the knocks.
Yep.
So, I think it's going to be really good. Yeah. And as you mentioned, Jason Robertson and Harley, this free agency class is going to be interesting. I think it's going to, the fact that McDavid is going to wait. Let's see what happens with Eichel.
Kaprizov.
Kaprizov. Like, will the money dry up for clubs is going to be the question, or are one of these guys game changers? To me, as far as Krill, I'm surprised. It does lead you to think that maybe he doesn't want to be in Minnesota. His camp says otherwise. But if it's true that he was offered $16 million a year and turned it down, I just don't see, like, I was thinking the other day, I'm like, okay, so is Krill better than McDavid? No. Is Krill better than Draisaitl? No. Is Krill better than Jack Eichel? No. Is Krill better than Austin Matthews? I don't think so.
No.
Like, I'm just going down this list. Is Krill better than Sebastian Aho of Carolina? I'd rather have Sebastian Aho. I know Krill can put up points, but can he be healthy for a whole year? So, stars play the Minnesota Wild a lot. Sure, there are times that flashes, but I never take over a game. And all those players I've mentioned, I've watched that.
And he's a winger, right? Like a winger is wingers. The thing is, in the league, there are literally twice as many wingers as there are centers. It is a supply and demand. Centers are expected to be more defensive, up and down the ice, forward, So I think when you're looking at paying a winger, again, same thing with Toronto was talking about with paying Mitch Marner. Like, do you want to pay this winger all this money and be cap strapped? And again, they talk about the core four and everything. Now they move off of Marner and Tavares signs a sweetheart deal, but like, you got to understand that $16 million is one. I think they say if he signed it would have been the biggest full contract ever, which is
and if that's true. And I'll ask this question, and people may disagree. Who's more valuable on the Minnesota Wild? Kirill Kaprizov or Matt Boldy?
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, Matt Boldy.
Kirill's certainly the more talented, but Boldy is so consistent in getting better every single year. And people have to recognize Matt Boldy as a really, really strong player. So, I mean, that's, to me, like, I have these questions in my head. I am pro Krill, but when $16 million is presented in front of you, if that was the case, if another team wants to pay $16 million, wow, that's amazing. Good on them. But if I have a choice, if he goes to unrestricted free agency and I have 16 that could go to Jack Eichel or Connor McDavid, I'm choosing those guys.
Absolutely. Well, and like I said, we talk about again, Kirill Kaprizov is phenomenal. I still have a hard time with an undersized winger who is 28 years, who will be 29 years old when he signs that kind of contract.
Yeah.
And again, he might be worth the 16. I mean, I don't know if he's worth the 16. I don't think I would sign. I mean, the only person I sign at 16 would be Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon. And again, then you're sabotaging yourself, right?
Game changers.
Yeah. But to me, again, you're looking at a guy signing at 29 years old. That's a hard pill to swallow for a guy who's gonna be good for 4 years, maybe 5, right?
Yeah. When I'm talking about game changers in the league, and I'm like Ovechkin, Crosby, McKinnon.
Oh yeah.
You go down. Every team has a really, really good players. Maybe it's just me. Kaprizov doesn't come to mind.
No.
As like one of those all-time elite players that I'm like, yeah, he's worth $16 million. I mean, I think honestly, he's worth Mikko Rantanen money. 12.
Yeah. That makes sense.
12 to 13, I think he's worth that.
Yeah, cap going up, I'll give him 13, but yeah, and the problem, I think the big reason it's the biggest story as it is because he foolishly, Billy Guerin, or Billy Guavin, if you heard the Lane Hutson's dad interview, he called him Billy Guavin. They gave him a full no move clause. So I think that is where you see it is a sticking point. Unlike the Mikko Rantanen trade where he had, I think it was a 10-team no trade clause. Krill gets to decide his fate, and I think that's why they're like, hey, we'll give you the sun and the moon. We can't lose you for nothing, So it would be a huge hit. I mean, if they lost Krill, I think they'd be in the mushy middle at that point, even worse than they already are. I think it'd be hard to find. Krill again is a star. Is he this superstar?
Right.
Debatable, right? But again, that would definitely set them back and their rebuild back a decent chunk.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's. I mean, we've been on here for over hour and 20 minutes already at this point. I mean, clearly I had a good time talking to you.
Good. I'm glad. I did too, man.
No, I'm glad. Like I said, I'm glad we were able to connect and everything. So why don't you tell everyone where we can find you and plug your pod, man.
Yeah, so Spits and Suds is really, really cool. It's called Spits because Gavin Spittle, Suds because we always pop Frosties after a win. And when we're at the Stars game or any hockey game, we encourage listeners to come by and I'll buy them a Frosty. So that's where the Suds comes from. So
nice.
It's kind of a unique podcast. We like to have fun. We talk to old players, retired players, current players. We like to have fun with them at the same time, talk some quality hockey. Whether it's a referee that we talk to or, we just talk to people and we have our panel of experts that talk, not just Dallas Stars, but NHL issues too. So thanks for allowing us to do plugs. You can find it on Odyssey or wherever your favorite podcasts are found, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you find it. So it's Spits and Suds. And I appreciate it, man. It's been a pleasure being on.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Like, thanks for coming on and everything. And everyone go check it out. Make sure you follow him on YouTube and follow him on Twitter. That's how we got connected and everything. So absolutely, go check that out. Check out Sean Shapiro's stuff and all the people that he's had on and everything. So again, you were a phenomenal guest, Gavin. I appreciate you coming on.
Man, it's absolutely been a pleasure. Yeah, I mean, if I can get one more plug in, Sean Shapiro, Robert Tiffin, David Castillo. These guys are quality hockey people that talk a lot of NHL. I mean, I know you talk the Red Wings. Sean Shapiro covers the Red Wings extensively, so he's a great follow as well. Yeah,
Shap Shots. Yeah,
Shap Shots is his Substack. They all have Substack, so just search them. And Robert's like starsthoughts.com. David is Starstack. So they're just quality people. And what I love is like a guy like Robert independently just saying like, hey, I'm going for it, covering the team, and people support him financially through his Substack. So that to me is a lot of fun to support people in their journey. Like I said, this is all about growing the great game of hockey. I love hockey. I'll talk hockey anytime. I didn't even realize it was an hour 20. So this has been a lot of fun, Brad. Look forward to doing it again.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, man. Everyone go check out Gavin, and we'll catch you next time. All right, man?
Look forward to it.